All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, we've got to talk about all sorts of news topics. I do see the live chat is working. That is a good indicator that we are probably live in 10, 15 seconds. Sabercat666 says clank. Buddy Mac 13 also. David's dog spa says cheers. And Buddy Mac saying, hey, David. Lemon Curd Zero, clank the day. Good morning, buddy. How are you on this glorious Friday? Such a beautiful day. Today is hamburger day. I make my own hamburgers. You don't need those pre-made patties or anything like that. I make them the right way. Oh, yes, indeed. They'll be loaded with vegetables and covered in condiments, toasted buns. Now, you can't have the buns get all soggy and shit like that. Anyway, just a second here. Let's make sure this is, yeah, I think that's working fine. Make sure that we're live. Prospectively. Oh, no, we're not live yet on Rumble. Well, we'll check again in another 10 seconds or thereabouts. Anyway, we've got to talk about things. Joe Biden falling down yet again. They're blaming a sandbag for it now, and they've got various liberal cope for him on this. I remember when it was front page news because Donald Trump was walking down an icy ramp and double-stepped it. That was considered hilarious. Back in the day, Gerald Ford falling literally once was also considered humorous. Joe Biden is on number 7 at least, and it could be higher than that. It's not 100% clear. I count 7. We'll go through that. We've got, of course, the Supreme Court and the Bruen decision is apparently going to be dovetailed with the Hunter Biden saga. Yes, Hunter Biden, a crack addict at the time, was not supposed to be possessing a firearm, but he possessed a firearm. Apparently, his legal team is preparing to use Bruen as a defense, saying, well, doesn't matter if he was on crack at the time. You can't keep a gun away from him. I actually agree with the Biden crime syndicate for once. It'll be funny if they end up using that defense. We'll also talk about Twitter's head of trust and safety resigning. That is Ella Irwin. She's gone now. Twitter is going through some changes at the moment. Elon Musk and many others weighing in on especially the What is a Woman saga that comes from Shapiro's people. Are we actually live? I think we're live. Yeah. Yeah, Rumble is being a little bit on the laggy side. Everyone on Rumble, can you see and hear me? Please tell me. Bulgaria85, I finally started the Elfin Ship yesterday. It's such comfy reading. I strongly agree with you. It is one of the best books ever written. And the trilogy that it's part of, by the way, the Bologna series by Blaylock, also very much worth reading. Although I would say that the Disappearing Dwarf and Stone Giants, while they're good books, they don't measure up to the Elfin Ship. So if you've read that one first, while they'll be definitely interesting, they won't be as interesting as the Elfin Ship, in my opinion, at least. I'd give Elfin Ship a 10 out of 10. I'll give the Disappearing Dwarf an 8 and the Stone Giant a 7 as far as my literary ratings go. Timothy Finch, conservative pearl clutching over McEnany. Lol. I'm not getting into that. I don't care. Daniel Rude, REFDR. Plenty of reasons to hate FDR. Gold theft, SCOTUS packing, warmongering, buddy with Stalin, etc. He was an authoritarian war criminal. Also a bitter cripple who decided to screw his cousin. So yeah, I am live on Rumble. However, it's having a little bit of a lag issue at the moment. Yeah, there are over 100 people watching live. Yeah, the lag is a little bit more on Rumble today. So we'll go through various news stories. I will probably keep it a little bit on the short side. A neighbor complained about our shed smelling like piss, actually, only about 15 minutes ago. My understanding is that a tomcat has probably decided to mark its territory because we happen to have 2 female cats. Nonetheless, apparently, at least one neighbor has a problem with this. So I guess I'll have to suds it down or something like that. I don't know. It's not much trash out there or anything. Most of it's not spoilable. It's cardboard and stuff like that. So I have a problem. Our next door, backdoor neighbor. This is the 3rd time now. I've rambled about it before that he's complained about something on our property. And I don't know what the problem is. Leave me the fuck alone. Anyway, will, I don't smell any piss in the shed. So it's obviously coming from outside of my own particular rental property. So maybe, dump a little bit of perfume on it or something like that. Anyway, we'll get past that. We've got a lot to talk about today, starting off, of course, with Biden's big fall. Ed Krasenstein here, the head of propaganda for Joe Biden, making excuses for his presumptively partially paid boss. Ed Krasenstein, I've probably tripped on things much smaller than a sandbag at least 20 times in my life, and I'm just 41. Biden tripped on a sandbag one time, and he's 80. The Secret Service is most responsible for this. Oh, passing the buck, by the way. They should have made sure there wasn't anything in his way. I would likely have tripped. You would likely have tripped. And most people would likely have tripped in this situation too. Let's just be glad that Biden is okay and move on. I'm sure that you would like to move on, but I would like to point out that if a sandbag were a yard removed from me and I was on a stage and I turned around to start walking, no, I probably would not have tripped on the sandbag. And I'm 35. Apparently, this is a pissing contest. A wink, wink, nudge, nudge, pun intended, with regards to age and how you get tripped up. Joe Biden has tripped and fallen at least 7 times in the last year and a half. You've got the incident with the dog in the shower. You've got the incident on the bike at Rehoboth Beach. You've got 4 incidents on Air Force One stairwell, and now you have this. That's the minimum. Those are the ones that I know of. I think that there are probably a few more that I'm not counting. I think, wasn't there one case in which he almost tripped on a foreign visit like a month ago? I don't 100% know, but at least there's 7. When a person that's in their 80s trips every 60 days or so fairly reliably, when this is a repeat sort of thing, normally the legacy media doesn't blame the wind or a sandbag. They say, hey, maybe grandpa should use a walker. They say that maybe there's something cognitively or physically wrong and something should be done about that. Use a cane, use a walker. Helga, the Swedish nurse, will carry you to your next venue. The thing is, that would be poor optics for a re-election bid, and that's the reason they're not doing this. It is almost elder abuse at this time. Spatial awareness has begun to decline. The fact is that a normal person, they turn around, they examine the area in front of them for obstructions, and then they proceed. They don't simply start walking and then notice at the last minute there's a sandbag there. Oh, shit. Oh, hell, I'm falling. I've fallen and I can't get up. That's not normal for a person that is cognitively normal. He's in his 80s. You can't blame him for having spatial awareness issues. Most people, by the time they get to that age, they're not as agile. They're not as nimble as they used to be. But Biden wants to put up this front of jogging around and taking you out behind the woodshed to do push-ups and stuff like that, and it just doesn't really work. This is not the only cope that I'm seeing about this. I see a lot of posting of Trump double-stepping it down the icy ramp, which is inapplicable. He didn't trip. He didn't fall down. He was walking on sheer ice at the moment, and nothing happened. And then I see a lot of people saying, well, you've tripped before too. Okay. If I were to have tripped at least 7 times and fallen down in the last year and a half, my wife would probably be looking into hospice at this point and insisting that I go into the hospital and get checked out. Hey, is there some underlying condition that you may have or may not have? We should probably look into that because you're getting kind of fucking clumsy. I've dropped dishes. I've tripped before. I've hit my head because I'm 6'2", and so that happens more often than I'd like to admit to. The fact is, though, that I'm not 81 years old, number one. Number 2, if I were to turn around and attempt to move across the stage and I saw there was a bag there, I would avoid it like a normal person. I wouldn't be unaware of the fact that it was there. And that's really, really the problem here. The fact is that Joe Biden is not cognitively normal. And we know this. We've got repeat incidents of this. Again, at the very least, 7 instances of him falling down over a year and a half. That's a minimum. That's what I calculate. There could be more instances. At this point, there are so many of them that in many cases, they don't even get coverage. Even new tech, even independent content creators don't even bother to talk about it. It's sort of like when Hillary Clinton went on the warpath after losing in 2016. She started blaming literally every group other than herself under the sun for why she had lost. At some point, it became boring. At first, it was very, very funny. And then it's like, okay, every other week she's got another scapegoat, and we're 6 months in. I don't want this to devolve into the Hillary Clinton is feeling sorry for herself channel. I don't want my channel to devolve into the Joe Biden falling down channel either. I guess a sandbag can defeat the president of the United States in battle. And that's rather sad. There should be some sort of mental litmus test for people running for office. I don't believe in age testing, but I do believe in cognitive testing. Just to be clear. Oh, yeah, he fell again. What else is new? Dark Gary 92. Biden also allegedly number 2'd himself at the Vatican. That is spurious, but it is believable enough that it became viral anyway, which tells you all you need to know about Joe Biden. Sebastian Monroe, I accept former VP Biden's challenge behind the woodshed on condition the Secret Service doesn't intervene in the short time the challenge will take. Yeah, that'd be funny. Push-up time. No, normally he only does push-ups on Ashley Biden. Null hypothesis. Biden should want a hip fracture so he can have a reason to campaign from the basement again. Maybe that's their goal. They're going to let him fall down. This time he won't fall up the stairs of Air Force One. He'll fall down. And he'll end up with a concussion and a broken leg and stuff like that. And he can say, well, I can't go on the debate stage with Orange Man. I've got governing to do. And his fans would actually eat that up. Gabriel Fenris, imagine the wild cope if he had hit his head and cracked his gourd. Yeah, I mean, at least he did know how to roll into it, like elbows first and then wrists and stuff. So kudos to him. After he broke out of the fugue moment, he did what he needed to do to prevent injury. So there's that. That's a saving grace. Not a bad account. Will Biden retire before the end of election 2024? Given the amount of times that he's fallen, there is a measurable chance of that. It's just not a very high chance. Mojo Hansen, don't know what the hell Trump is praising Cuomo for. To get under the skin of his adversary, actually, to compare him positively to DeSantis. Which doesn't do anything for me, but, it is funny to see people's reaction, I suppose. DeSantis is the also ran in this campaign. There is nobody else, by the way. Everyone else is in the single-digit range, so kudos to DeSantis. At the very least, you're the only person who can break 20 in a state. Nick Ray 47, I sent you Twitter DMs about Musk selling out on free speech and Ashley Babbitt's mom being arrested. Thought you'd touch on them. Yes, I've seen that story. Both of them, actually. We will be talking about Twitter and the head of trust and safety resigning. It will be dovetailed somewhat with the Daily Wire story. Midwest Finest 95. First rant and enjoyed wokeness is wrong. A helpful guide for a newbie in politics like myself. Glad you enjoyed it. By the way, again, there is a link at the top of chat if you're watching on YouTube, and cross-platform it is also in the description, to my new work about gun rights. And that will help as a primer if you intend to debate people that are anti-gun. It will give you some tips on that particular debate, specifically strong and weak arguments for and against gun control and or gun rights, the meaning of the militia, Castle Doctrines dovetailed in there, of course, as well, and some historical background without all of the legalese and boring history that some works use to take, I have got 24 topics, subtopics in this work. Some works will elaborate that to 400 pages. The problem is if you want a debate primer, if you want to digest it in a pithy manner and utilize that material pragmatically, you have to keep it more terse. And so that's exactly what I did. So please do get a copy. And if you do, please do leave a rating. It is very, very helpful. Cyberbeep, Sticks, given the recent injunction against ATF PB ban, should I join either of the organizations named to protect myself? Have a boating accident? Yeah, apparently if you join Gun Owners of America, the pistol brace ban doesn't necessarily apply to you in the Fifth Circuit region. Not 100% sure if that ruling applies elsewhere. AP1S2K, shout out to my girl Pixie. She's proof that purple-haired chicks can be hella based, MAGA 2A purists. She's quite busty with big pretty eyes, and please pray to Stolas that my canique quits jamming. Your canique quits jamming? I don't know exactly what that means. Oh, yeah, so shout out to Pixie. The Atlas Report. $5, no comment. Thanks. I will use this money to buy drugs for children. Yeah, if you pay me, I'll say anything that's not against the TOS. Next news story. Supreme Court's expansion of gun rights could be good news for Hunter Biden. Now, this is pertinent to one part of the case against him, not the tax evasion / money laundering, et cetera, et cetera. Hunter Biden purchased a firearm lying on the form, by the way, in which he submitted while he was a crack addict. He got a handgun. And you're not supposed to do that. Under federal law, you're not supposed to. If you're currently on drugs, you're breaking the law, although nobody really cares. You're not supposed to have a firearm. You're not supposed to be able to purchase one. And lying on the forms is actually a potential felony. That being said, Hunter Biden's legal team, according to this story, and this is from his lawyers, so this is legit, they're going to use Bruen, the decision that was a largely pioneered by 3 Trump justices, as an exoneration of Hunter Biden with regards to having a firearm while he was smoking crack and effectively, committing multiple felonies. I actually, for once, I have to side with the Biden family on this one. If it strengthens Bruen, if Bruen is to be understood in its proper context, the concept that a person is on intoxicating substances is not a reason to disarm them. Our founding fathers really, really loved alcohol. They took opioids frequently. If you went through the 19th century, certainly the 1800s, there was hardly anyone who would have been owning a gun who wasn't chugging down whiskey. They were smoking. They used laudanum, which is semi-prepared opioid, sort of a slurry. They used other drugs as well. They used deliriants, everything under the sun that they could get a hold of to, imagine there's no TV, there's no internet or anything. What more fun can you have than to take drugs and go out into the wild? And the animals are floating through the air and the trees are upside down, and it must have been a fun time had by all. This is also why they were fucked up health-wise all of the time. I actually agree with this. Absolutely. The right to bear arms should not be requisite on a person being sober. If that were the case, most of the population wouldn't be able to keep and bear arms. The militia would definitely be deficient then. So we're going to wait and see what happens here. But if they're actually choosing to do this, this is kind of Hunter Biden undercutting Daddy, because Daddy right now is pushing for an extra lot of gun control, and this would be definitely part of it. So we'll see what happens with this. The dispute would come as the White House fights to tighten gun laws, and it would put conservative gun rights enthusiasts who typically criticize the Biden family in unusual alignment with the president's son. I would point out one thing. Hunter Biden is a scumbag. He's a drug addict. He's a cheater. He solicits prostitutes. He's all sorts of messed up and talking about fucking smoking Parmesan cheese off the rug because he thought it was crack and weird shit like that. So he's an embarrassment to the Biden family, and it's really hard to embarrass them considering their laundry list of misgivings and misdoings in the past. But that doesn't mean that he should be in on felony charges for so-called lying on a gun form when the question should not be asked in the first place. I actually, I'll side with him. I'm much more interested in Biden's business dealings, not his son's weird proclivities. He's done plenty of wrong. He's currently battling it out in court over his artwork, actually, whether that is to be considered in child support payments. So he is a scumbag. That doesn't mean that he's a violent individual and irrational, insane, and not a member of the militia. He is. He's just a delinquent member of the militia who is constantly intoxicated. Where is America? A WHO treaty giving them control of all members' info and sovereignty. None of the MSM is talking about it, and I've only heard Jimmy Dore and AJ discuss. I have seen that particular story. I've been looking into it more deeply to see whether it's worth having a video bit. Hexen sent $100, but you didn't send a comment. I thank you for the money anyway. It's a good time had by all. I like money. Every good capitalist does. I'm not going to pretend to be socialistic like the breadliners. The Patriot Cairo, thank a straight person today for your existence. Well, gay people can get pregnant. It's less common, but they can, so. The Defamation League. Hey, Sticks, any chance you'd be down to record guest vocals on one of our songs? Don't have anything particular in mind or ready, just asking for future reference. If so, how much would you charge? Yeah, that'd be fine. I wouldn't charge anything. Yeah, just give me credit and make sure to link me in the description, basically. I like Singy Thing. Boycott Warhammer Plus. Hey Sticks, I can't recommend Orange Man Big enough as a steamy, erotic material. Would recommend to other avid jelking enthusiasts like myself. Huge even. Yes, Orange Man Big also available, not just the gun rights work, although I would say I am currently working on Volume 2. It's going to be even more deplorable and messy than the first volume. I'm really going out of my way to make it as degenerated as I possibly can. So it's not just, somebody pulling out their eyeball and stuffing a meatball of shit into their eye, which literally is part of the Little Ronnie story in Orange Man Big 1. It's going to go beyond that. If you can believe it, the depravity will be sheer. Mr. Twisted Frenzy. Hey, Sticks, I can't find your book, Seert, debunked on Amazon. You mean Critical Race Theory debunked. Has it been discontinued? Sorry for the weird spelling. You know what YouTube's like. No, look up Critical Race Theory Debunked, and it should be there on the front page. If not, check my books blog, either Blogspot or WordPress, links in the description, and go to my own authored works, the ones under my works, and the link is there. Anthony Guzman, what's your 2023 breakdown of the January 6th protests in light of the Tucker Carlson footage and Glenn Greenwald's claim that Congress would have convicted Trump if he had pardoned Snowden and Julian Assange? I think that there was a riot that day, but no insurrection attempt. I think Tucker Carlson's footage is scant compared to what we need, which is all of the footage. There's a reason why the FBI won't release it. They're claiming it's because that glowy ones were in the crowd that day, so we were all right. There were agent provocateurs present, and yes, I think that Donald Trump, if he had pardoned Snowden or Assange, the Republicans would have immediately flipped their shit. They would have removed him from office. That Manx guy sent $10. No comment. Thank you. Doots, the sandbag was obviously planted by evil Orange Hitler. It was a Republican sandbag. Michael Greco, when Trump wins 2024, will you eat 3 scoops of ice cream on your live stream? I don't eat ice cream. I don't eat sugary snacks of any kind, actually. I avoid them in favor of eating meats and vegetables and things like that. Chug, have you ever read Dune by Frank Herbert? No, I have not read Dune, although I probably should. It sounds pretty fucking good. Let's see. Null Hypothesis on Rumble. That's a great shirt. What's the backstory on that shirt? It's just one of those Hawaiian shirts that they make now. I don't even know if this is one of the original ones or one of the reprints that they make now. Some of which are made in China to lower specifications, but it's comfy. I think it looks good. Sort of like a Freddie Mercury shirt. Towards the end of his life, he was wearing shit like this, and also that vest with the cats on it. He was obsessed with cats, apparently. The Patriot Cairo. Sticks, you said you weren't bothered by the cross-dresser greeting kids at Disney because it wasn't sexual, but do you disagree with Drag Queen Story Hour? Why? Because Drag Queen Story Hour in many cases is sexualized. You have people exposing their crotch to children, etc., etc. A little bit different from someone who's merely in drag. Drag is not the problem. It's the sexualization of children that is the problem. And this needs to be differentiated for the purposes of debate. I'm a little bit stuffed up today. Next news story. Twitter's head of trust and safety resigns. Oh, another one bites the dust. Speaking of Queen, Twitter's Ella Irwin has resigned as the company's head of trust and safety, confirming her departure to Reuters on Thursday. Irwin stepped into the role following the departure of Yoel Roth in November, shortly after Elon Musk acquired the business for $44 billion. Irwin is yet to offer any public statement on her decision to leave the company, which she joined in June 2022. Well, that didn't last long now, did it? The departure of the senior executive is the latest episode in a chaotic 7 months since Musk's acquisition of the social media platform in October. What chaos? Community notes can take care of like half of the problem of issues on the site. If it were expedited, then it would be even better. By the way, 4 of my community notes are now actually live on the site. Who knows when the other roughly 50 or 60 of them will ever go live? Probably not. Of course, if it's on an old tweet, nobody's seeing it in the docket anymore. What we need to do is to expedite the situation, make it quicker, make it easier for the notes to actually go through or not go through, get a judgment much quicker. Because right now, the main problem on the site, really, it's not with abuse or trolling or anything like that. It's not, well, I mean, there's a spam problem, especially crypto spam scams. That would be admitted. The main problem on the site is that the fact checking that does need to exist, because there is disinfo, not state disinfo, but people spouting off bullshit as though it's true and fooling other people, and they're full of shit, is too slow. It takes sometimes days to get a note that actually goes through, and it shouldn't be that way. What they need to do is look at the people who have been making ratings for now half a year and take the top half of them and give them expanded power and kick the other half off or something like that. Make it easier for the top half of the people making the notes who are putting in the effort to actually have those notes stick quicker. Assume that the note isn't bullshit unless the person has been found to be spamming community notes or making irrelevant notes or satire or something like that. That's all you have to do. Anthony Guzman, are you a Fed? No, I don't get paid by the federal government. I pay them tens of thousands of dollars a year just to exist. Even though I take up literally no goods or services at the moment in the United States, I'm still expected to pay a shit ton of money. And I think that's wrong. Tasmanaut, longtime fan from Tasmania. Been watching your content since 2016. Any tips for dealing with people's comments about long hair? I too have long hair. Yeah, just flaunt it if you got it, just ignore them. Some people, they look shitty when they have long hair. You can point that out if you want. Mojo Hansen, I don't think they will let Trump run in the end. They're 100% going to fuck him over, whatever it takes. They don't care about the consequences. It's the plan. I have talked about the grand conspiracy involved with that, which is what I see arising. I will do a standalone video on that subject in the coming days. They may or may not be successful, though, in preventing that run. The Patriot Cairo, dressing in drag is fetishistic, not okay for kids. Well, I mean, here's the problem. Let's say that you were to have some sort of bill that said that you can't cross-dress in public. So what if a person simply wants to wear a skirt? They're fully clothed. They're not showing anything off. They're not being sexual. They're simply dressing in the wrong clothes. What you've just done is make the government able to pass a dress code over the adult population, and I don't support that. What if a woman were to wear blue jeans and a men's shirt? She's fully clothed. She's not being indecent. She's not perving on anyone. Again, you run into the same problem. All it has to do with is don't sexualize the kids. If you're in a situation where kids are being twerked on or something, that's unacceptable. If you're just walking down the street and you happen to be wearing a kilt, so you're of Scottish heritage, you're clearly there's something wrong with this. Well, the fact that it is technically a skirt doesn't mean that there's any perversion going on, and so that's why I would that's how I would qualify it. AP1S2K, Canik is my sexy-looking Turkish pistol that hates my crappy practice ammo. P.S. Rotating barrels superior to Browning tilting barrel pistols. Interesting. Nick Ray 47, if they block Trump from running in 24, what's going to be the point of voting in the end? Not blackpilled at all, just want your thought. Yeah, if Donald Trump is prevented from running effectively, I think I'll mount a bid. Why not? Clear the rule of law means nothing, so the fact that I'm haven't signed the paperwork shouldn't matter, right? I'll put forth my own campaign at that point. Give me Donald Trump, or I'll run myself. It'll be a largely internet-based campaign. And it'll be a serious one, too. I already have platform proposals lined up and ready to go, just in case of such an eventuality. Next news story comes from my home state of Vermont, and it's an unfortunate one. Phil Scott allows gun control bill to go into law without his signature. So he decided to cuck on this. Instead of just saying no and getting overridden, he decided to just throw his hands up in the air. Knowing that my constitutional concerns will be addressed through the legal process, I will allow H-230 to become law without my signature and await the judicial branch to decide the fate of waiting periods, the Republican governor said Thursday. Photo by Somchai Kong Kamsri via Pexels. Yeah, Vermont has passed more gun control. It expands red flag laws. It expands the waiting period from 72 hours. It increases that. Or it would have. 72 hours is the actual proposal. They were going for a week, actually, for 7 days. And also safe storage rules, which means, you're not allowed to effectively defend yourself with anything but a gun you're willing to literally sleep with, because if you have it on your dresser beside your bed, you're breaching the law now in the state of Vermont. This is an abomination. it will be upheld by the Vermont State Supreme Court. They've made it clear time and time again that they are enemies of the Constitution. I don't expect for them to injunct it. I don't expect for them to water it down. I don't expect it to take very long for them to dismiss any case brought forward. At this point, the only hope for the state of Vermont, which used to have literally no gun control and now has more than almost any state in the country, is a federal court case. Somebody needs to, complain about this, not to the Vermont State Supreme Court or within the Vermont's own legal system, but at the federal level in order to get it injuncted. It's clearly all of these proposals are out of step with Bruen. Red flag laws don't have anything beyond the most recent of precedent within U.S. law. There's never been any safe storage laws at all before the last couple decades, so those would run afoul of Bruen. You're talking about this century. Not even for 50 years. No, not even 50 years. Literally this century, the first safe storage laws come into effect. California, I believe, was first. And as far as waiting periods, those have never been a thing in the state of Vermont or elsewhere, again, until fairly recently. This is effectively the state of Vermont trying to disarm more people or keep them less well armed. I would point out there's a fairly easy legal strategy, especially for the waiting period, which is you could argue in front of a court. Let's say that Sally finds out that she has a stalker. So there's a dude who's following her around, being a prowler, going onto her property or something. And she tries to buy a gun because she's afraid. She's not doing it for a malevolent purpose. She's a member of the militia. She's not mentally defective. She's not a criminal, no criminal record. She wants a gun to defend herself, to defend her home. And the state says, no, you have to wait 72 hours. And in that 72 hours, the prowler decides to break in and strangles her or rapes her or something like that. Is the state not therefore responsible for what has happened by instituting such a law? I would answer that it is. The idea is, well, somebody might get really mad and say, you know what, I'm going to kill that bitch and go out and buy a gun, and then they kill someone. Do you really think that somebody who snaps to the level where they're actively planning first-degree homicide is just going to calm down because you make them wait a couple of days? No, they're still homicidal. They're a lunatic. They're a criminal loony. They shouldn't be able to own a gun under the understanding of our founders, by the way. What's the litmus test and who imposes it to find out who falls under that category? Well, clearly the state of Vermont thinks that it's, the state of Vermont and that family members and neighbors should be able to have a person disarmed because they feel threatened by them, even though that person is not even allowed to challenge it in court. They don't even know that the red flag law has been invoked. There is no legal challenge that they can make except ex post facto. This is clearly unconstitutional in every possible way, shape, and form. And I wish that some of these gun rights groups would pile into Vermont and spend a little bit of time liberating one of the first states in the union to have no gun control whatsoever for a brief period of time, once the suppressor ban, of course, ended. It was the first state with constitutional carry because of its state constitution, and this is also unique. In the state of Vermont, the Supreme Court there, the legislature there, etc., are not just ignoring the U.S. Constitution or SCOTUS precedent. They're also ignoring the state constitution, making it all that much more egregious. No gun control should exist in the state of Vermont whatsoever. It's not necessary either. Oh my God, suicides. Okay, well, a suicidal person doesn't need a gun to kill themselves. Accidental discharge. Well, a person can accidentally stab somebody too, now can't they? Homicide. There aren't that many homicides in the state of Vermont. Gun crime, other than, again, suicide and accidental discharge, gun deaths in the state of Vermont are pretty fucking low because it's a largely law-abiding population. The biggest problem, the rise in gun crime there, is mostly a bunch of New Yorkers selling drugs and killing each other over them at this point. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, what do you think the likelihood is that the swamp will try to JFK Orange Man? Only if he's elected. If he manages to get past the selection process, which they're honking on, and the general, which they're preparing to honk on, yeah, I suspect that they will try that, unfortunately. Bara, what are they accusing Trump of doing in Georgia? I'm not 100% sure at this point. It's sort of a hodgepodge. Election fraud, I guess, or something. David Nephilim Slayer. Dune is a masterwork of futurist vision, political and social commentary. God Emperor. Magnum opus, also Wreck White Plague by Herbert. The Defamation League. Sticks and Kitty co-host 2024. Make America clank again. Yeah, if Trump is not the GOP nominee, I'll probably mount my own write-in campaign. Apache, the fact that they're going after Trump so hard gives me hope. It scares me. It worries me what else they'll do to stop him and what people will let them. Yeah, they're also testing to see how much abuse people are willing to take right now. Absolutely. AP1S2K, please email me 100 rounds of NATO spec ammo. Clank. It'd be cool if you could email ammo and shit to one another. Like, you know, things that were physical, not just zeros and ones. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. More for the Biltong fun there. The Patriot Cairo, forgive me, Sticks. So you'd be okay with daycare providers and teachers for children dressing in drag daily as long as it's not sexual. Define drag. Are you talking about cross-dressing, as in a man wearing a skirt? What if it's a full-length skirt? They're not showing anything a woman wouldn't. If they're not perving on the kids, there's no legal case to be had there. You can consider it weird. You certainly probably should take your kids out of the daycare, but they're not breaking any law. They're not attempting to groom children or anything. Again, a woman wearing, you know, the oil-stained suspenders and the men's t-shirt is not necessarily perving on anyone. If you're saying drag as in the performance art, so that does include twerking and the long nails and the hey darlings, the flirty shit and stuff like that, and the cocaine usually. Yeah, that shouldn't be around kids in any way, shape, or form. Bleach Demon, clearly banning New Yorkers is a better solution. Yeah, banning New Yorkers from voting would definitely help the country. Next news story, court denies Massachusetts 7th grader free speech request following legal battle over two genders shirt. Liam Morrison, 12, is suing Nichols Middle School officials for violating his First Amendment rights. Now, we'll get one thing out of the way. The idea that this kid, in and of himself, is likely to have been the originator of the concept of wearing the shirt. While it's possible, there's definitely some anti-woke, 12-year-olds out there. I've met some people who are young. They're not taken in by the wokeness thing. They have more traditionalistic views or something. That's less likely than that the parents dreamed up this idea for a lawsuit. I support him. Of course, he should have the right to wear the shirt. And I would point out, of course, biologically speaking, if we're using the notion of biology that's typically invoked within science, there are only two genders. There are many gender expressions. You can do literally whatever you want, dress the way you want, etc., fuck whoever you want, although that's not generally applicable to middle schoolers. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. You either do or do not have a Y chromosome, and that really is the determinant of whether you are male or female for the colloquial usage of the term. A person without a Y chromosome, this fixes for people who are menopausal, fixes for younger females. It fixes for people with Turner syndrome, other rare disorders. It fixes for men that have certain secondary disorders. There's one disorder that's like 1 in 10 million people or something, where a male, there's a secondary genetic problem. I can't remember the name of this term. There was an episode of Dr. House MD that actually involved this. And it's a male, but there's never any testosterone. So the testicles are like minuscule. The vagina is still fully formed. It's fully functioning other than you can't get pregnant. Breast development happens. Puberty goes through as though they were a female, but they're still a male. They have a Y chromosome. They're XY. They're a fully, totally normal male. They just have a secondary allele or gene that is dysfunctional. And so it's a problem for them sometimes. I think in the episode with House, the individual was acting crazy, and they couldn't figure out why, and they assumed, looking at this person, hey, it's a girl. So they never bothered to do a genetic test until the last minute, and then I think she flashed House at the end, actually, and it was kind of funny. And, yeah. So, I mean, technically, you're basically a female, but you do still have the Y chromosome. You are male. It's just, sorry, you didn't get your testosterone, so you're not going to be able to ever get or be pregnant. So I stand with Liam Morrison. I would say, however, there does come with the caveat of understanding the likelihood that he is simply acting more or less on his parents' behalf. But it doesn't really matter. It's a free speech issue. You should be able to have a shirt saying, if the shirt doesn't say, hey, I hate you for some reason, or hey, I'm going to shoot you for some reason, or something like that. I've never liked school dress codes, or certainly school uniforms. I think they're bullshit. I think let the kids be kids, let them express themselves. It's better to teach them individuality than to teach them conformity anyway. Jesus loves you. Sticks, would you consider covering the bill proposing cutting veteran disability compensation to save the government money? DM me on Twitter if you have a link to that bill. If anyone has it out there, you can do that. Adam Gardner, Witch Hammer. Yes, the Hexenhammer. Ashley, if Trump gets JFK, do you think it'll finally wake people up? And what would the American public's response be? Stay based. I hate to tell you, but half the public would chuckle at it. Half the public wouldn't have any problem. Well, it was just a Nazi in the end. It's good that he's gone. Or something to that effect, unfortunately. The other half mostly would chuff about it and say, look, this is clearly bullshit. This is clearly shenanigans. Would they do anything about it? Some of them would, and they'd get cast off as terrorists for doing so. We've literally seen this in 2020. The Great Scalzini, King of the Hilltong. I sell biltong and biltong accessories. Yep. Nick Ray 47. If they block Trump from... Oh, I already read that one. You're not getting a freebie. Next news story. RFK Jr. in the populist wave. Why are Kennedy and Marianne Williamson polling so highly against Biden? Says one Democrat backer. There's a reckoning coming. I beg to fucking differ. Number one, RFK Jr. is not a populist. He is a fake populist. He's a deep anti-gunner. He's a standard liberal. He simply has a couple of ideas on which, populists can get aboard, like vax mandates or something. That's all. Marianne Williamson is a goddamn socialist. We'll be talking about her in a minute with regards to her whining about the absence of a Democratic presidential debate that historically wouldn't make sense to even occur because the incumbent typically supersedes and there aren't any debates held, at least by the party. If she wants to debate RFK Jr., that would be hilarious. The 10 people watching, I'm sure, would be so enthused by what culminates thereafter. RFK Jr. cannot stop Donald Trump. That was the tagline for the article was, Biden. Biden has an RFK Jr. problem. Well, he doesn't. RFK Jr. is stuck in the low 20s. I would point out he is basically the same place that DeSantis is, despite the fact that he only has 2 opponents. So that's more about Trump's strength than Biden's weakness at that point. He has no chance unless Joe Biden were to croak tomorrow or something like that. Although he did have a bad fall the other day, so that's probably why RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson are in the race. Well, there's the off chance that something catastrophic happens to Biden. The Uniparty might not have a candidate waiting in the wings that can immediately take command, which means that the 2 people that are actually also in the field are basically sharing the voters at that time. Maybe we can win some of them over at the time, and there's some viability that spurs from that, and that's possible. I think that RFK Jr., that's probably his tactic. Wait for Biden to maybe get incapacitated by another aneurysm. Nonetheless, he is not capable of stopping Joe Biden. Joe Biden can be stopped by Joe Biden. That's basically the only thing that can happen. He has a health problem. He makes some grave mistake and alienates everyone. That's what can stop Joe Biden from being nominee. In the general, the only thing that can stop him is Donald Trump. And of course, the Uniparty is going out of its way to try to prevent that from happening because they want a unipartyist. What they really want is for Trump not to be the nominee. They will probably fail at that particular venture. If he's nominee, they want to take him off the campaign trail and put him in jail and hope that the masses settle down. That peasant rabble needs to shut the fuck up. But it won't be RFK Jr. changing anything. Again, he's stuck at 20, 25 in the best polls. That's not viability. The only reason you're polling that high is because there's only 3 people in the race. So if people are holding their breath for RFK out of nowhere, I hate to tell you this to the boomers out there, you're not going to get another Kennedy in the Oval Office. Ozzy's Robots. If you're upset at Disney's drag workers, visit my museum instead. Your family admitted for less than the price of parking at Disney, plus you're only 5 minutes from the ocean and golf. Hashtag Bilata Collection. Gonna see that someday, my dude. Yeah, Joe Biden can self-destruct. Any other path forward involves him being the nominee. Whether he wins the general or not is up in the air. It depends partially on how much fortification takes place and how much other shenanigans take place. Yeah, the other problem with RFK Jr., again, physiognomy shouldn't really play a role in who you elect for the presidency. This is DeSantis' problem. He's like 5'8". Donald Trump is 6'3" or 6'2". He towers over him. that becomes a problem. If they ever are on a stage together, DeSantis is literally going to have like, a couple of phone books underneath him to save face. The same is true with the Democratic field. Marianne Williamson is nuts, so she doesn't matter. And RFK Jr. doesn't sound the part. He may look the part-ish, but he doesn't sound the part. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Biden would actually have an advantage in the physiognomy department. After numerous plastic surgeries, of course, but, it doesn't really matter. And then the final news story here, and please send no more super chats because I'll try to wrap it up a little bit early because, again, I had to do scrubby thing out in the shed because the neighbor complained about cat piss or some shit like that. Wasn't our cats doing it, though. I think a tomcat has their eye on Yana and Farah, so we gotta be careful and have a curfew. Debate us, Mr. President. This is by Marianne Williamson, the also ran in the Democratic race. You will know her as Hippie Grandma, who has lost her campaign manager and her deputy campaign manager as of about a week ago, and who accidentally sent what was supposed to be a private DM or email publicly on Twitter, which was archived and laughed about at the time, to one of her staff for throttling suggestions that were being sent her way and telling him, hands off, I'll do that myself. And it was hilarious. Supposedly, she has a problem where she lashes out at employees and, berates them verbally. She's not in the realm of viability. She's in the single digits. RFK Jr. has more than a 10-point lead over her, and he's the also ran. She's not going to be selected as the Dem nominee. She's not going to be elected president. She'll never hold political office again. In fact, I'm not 100% sure she actually has ever held a political office. I know that she was the head of a board that ran a church, and they managed to make it go into the black. So good on her. You made millions of dollars doing that. And she probably, if I go to her campaign site, I expect to see organite crystals and shit like that. Here's what I would say to Marianne Williamson. And because she's got so little support, she sometimes actually responds to content creators, which I find funny. You are not understanding. Typically speaking, incumbents don't debate at all. They are greenlit by their party. They're endorsed by everyone, which Biden effectively has been by 75% of the Democrats in Congress. And then they go on and do their thing. There's no reason for them to debate you. You're not viable. If Biden croaks, then you'll be part of a debate. Probably with Elizabeth Warren or somebody like that. Maybe Kamala Harris, although the Democrats would be extra stupid to run her because given the goddamn gap between her and either Trump or DeSantis, it would take so much monumental honking to get her into that position. I don't think they could pull it off. They're better off with Biden. Biden incapacitated in a wheelchair would outperform Kamala Harris. As far as Marianne Williamson, it's really funny to see your campaign. It's amusing because you don't know really what you're doing. You say weird off the wall shit about how we need to lead the country. Public policy should be based on love and justice, which is exactly the opposite of what it should be based off of. That's perfectly fine. There's no problem with that. But stop pretending, number one, that you're viable. Stop pretending, number two, that you don't understand that incumbents typically don't debate their challengers because they have no need to. And, it would be wonderful to see Joe Biden have to go on a debate stage before you, a far leftist, a socialist, and RFK Jr., a kind of kooky center-left sort of individual who nonetheless is very anti-gun, and wonder if it's because of his dad. That would be funny. It would be amusing to see you debate Biden and, probably pull punches, but I'd hope that you would go in like a raped ape. But it won't happen. You're never going to get a chance to debate him. So, By the way, the Chatty Factory, I left the country. I'm in the Netherlands right now, absolutely, because I'm married to a Dutch woman. That happened before COVID broke out, the China virus. That happened before the economy bottomed out. Trump was still president at the time, and everything was hunky-dory. It had nothing to do with trying to escape the United States, as some of my detractors have said before. They're hoping that if they say it often enough that people just assume that it's true, but, I always point out that they're wrong. Sparky, Williamson is pro-war. Not in the general sense, but yeah, I think she is pro continuing to fuck around in Ukraine, so. Never met a position on which she couldn't be wrong. Marianne Williamson is pathetic. She's tried to spar with me, by the way, on 3 or 4 different occasions on Twitter, and I always chuckle when she responds because Then she ends up getting ratioed and can't understand exactly what's going on. It's like, you want to be the president of the United States. You don't understand basic economics, basic civics. It's probably not going to work out for you because unlike Biden, who also doesn't understand these things, you don't have the billionaire backers. Ozzy's robots. The Uniparty is the new mafia. Trump's not a made man. Yeah, he's outside of the woke mafia of the Unipartists. Anyway, I'm going to go offline. I thank you to the 4,000 people roughly watching live. Keep in mind, there is a link pinned at the top in chat on YouTube and cross-platform in the description. Do get a copy of my work on the gun rights debate and how to win it. If you support the militia, the right to an expansive, beefy Second Amendment, you'll find things of use there in debating people that don't agree with you. And do leave a rating, please, if you do buy a copy. It is exceptionally helpful. A rating is worth 5 sales. A full review is worth 10 plus sales. So I do appreciate it when people do that. A lot of you did that for Orange Man Big. And right now, by the way, I would like to claim a righteous victory here. The gun rights debate book, again, the link is there, is #1 in civics and in human rights on Amazon. In fact, it's close to being in the top 1,000 for books site-wide at the moment. That's much more than I expected. I did not expect it to do that well. So I appreciate everyone's candor in buying copies. You buy a copy for a friend, too. Maybe you buy one and you plop it at the local library or the little lending kiosk, the take a book, leave a book sort of places. They have them, by the way, all over the place in the Netherlands. Second Amendment doesn't really apply here unless it's a pneumatic rifle, but yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, so I'll go offline now. I'm cooking hamburgers and homemade French fries later. Yes, I keep the skin on because I'm not fucking stupid. That's about all. Peace out.